Well, back from one of your luxury vacations.
No, it was about a four-nighter. We got into about 5 states. I'll just say 2 things about that. One, the Doris Duke Mansion in Newport was extraordinary, as well as the views along that thing called Bellevue Avenue. One fabulous mansion after another. It made your jaw drop. And the second thing was just in the town of Ogunquit, Maine, there's this little thing called the Marginal Way. It's a path. I found it stunning, absolutely stunning, along the cliffs. Not high, not long, but stunning.
It is. I've been to both. I mean, I'm from Rhode Island originally, so I've been to Newport, which I really enjoy. I like the Gilded Age, and I want to live the Gilded Age. I want a gold cherub in my house, spouting out water. Well, actually, it should be spouting out gold leaf. But the Marginal Way is Ogunquit is an interesting place. A matter of fact, my daughter and I went when the pandemic was kind of subsiding a little because we refused to adhere to those ridiculous lockdowns. Don't stop me because I can't say it enough. But yeah, I love Maine. It's great. And I hope you had some blueberry pie.
Not that I recall.
What is it with my brother went to Maine and he didn't have any blueberry pie either.
You did also go to the Norman Rockwell Museum in Stockbridge, Massachusetts.
Oh, I love that too.
Wow.
It's great.
Powerful. And on the grounds, those beautiful grounds, no one talking outside. It was just people in this comfortable environment. No yelling, no screaming, really no talking. And second, no litter. It's a pleasure to be in a place that doesn't have litter. These people had respect for the grounds and for the person. And then, of course, his work inside, just spellbinding.
Yeah, no, I agree. I enjoyed that museum. I've been there. There's also, I think the guy who sculpted the Lincoln Memorial, his home is I think it's in Stockbridge or Lenox or somewhere like that. And you can see the workroom where he worked on.
Yes, it's on the ground.
What's his name again? Chester or something? I don't remember. But it's definitely, the Berkshires is great. Well, you were in some of my favorite places, Stuart. But let's get back to the fun of reality. Because I have to tell you, now that it's fall and I'm no longer doing my traveling and I'm back here in this stinkhole of the city.
Oh, come on.
It's put me in a real foul mood. And I made a decision. I was going to watch that vice presidential debate. And I know a lot of people didn't, but I did. And I was hoping to see J.D. Vance, even though I am no fan, I wanted to see him rip Tampon Tim to shreds, which he did not. A matter of fact, it was a rather respectful exchange between the two of them. I mean, it was clear to me that Vance is a way more advanced intellect, to say the very least, than Tampon Tim, because he was very polished and he tried to sell Trumpism in a very slick and kind of creative way. And you have to give him credit because he's the master of bullshit, okay? Because
he saw one little segment of it.
Yeah.
It was the segment in which he refused to, he was asked, do you believe that
right, the election, right.
That just stinks, and that shows who he is and to what cause he puts his intellect.
Well, yeah, he's an opportunist, obviously, and he's selling his soul to the devil. So, but we've already knew all of this. But Tampon Tim, he had the weirdest facial expressions throughout the whole thing, like wide-eyed. He kept on staring at Vance, fidgeting. I mean, he definitely gives a creepy pedo vibe. And he really does. And what I thought was the funniest part was and he wasn't as bad as I thought he would be, but he was certainly not good. And at one point, he was called on the fact that he said how he was in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square massacre, and apparently he wasn't. Matter of fact, he lied. Surprise, he's lied about a number of things. His combat record, about how he used IVF treatments, about his drunk driving incidents. So he lied. I don't know why he would lie. What is the advantage of this lie? I don't even know, which makes him dumb. So when they call him on and he goes, well, I'm a knucklehead. I misspoke. And I was like, a knucklehead? I was like, he used those words, and I was like, you are a knucklehead and a creepy pedo. But at the end of the day, Stuart, what this brings into question is Kamala Harris. The only thing we can really tell about her decision making, because she's so masking all her views, is that she chose this moron to be her vice president. And there were so many more qualified Democrats she could have picked, but she chose a knucklehead, a self-confessed knucklehead. And it doesn't say much for her judgment. It brings a lot of reservations to me. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I personally am considering voting for Trump because I have had enough of these Democrats and what they have done to my city, to this country, what happened in Afghanistan, what's happening in the Middle East, the weakness. It is enough. And I mean, I hate to say this, but when Trump was president, we didn't have what was going on in the Middle East. And we have it because we have a president who is barely alive. And we have a vice president who chose Tim Walz. So that's my first degree of outrage. Now, of course, I could change because my original instinct was not to vote at all. But, you know, these people are unacceptable, these Democrats. They have had their chance and they've screwed it up.
Okay.
Anything you have to say about that, Stu?
Not really. I certainly don't think the Biden administration is praiseworthy, but I still feel great trepidation and over the prospect of a Trump presidency.
He's a lunatic. You're correct. But a lunatic definitely, but one thing I will say, I suspect that if he does become president, he's going to go on a vengeance campaign against the Democrats. And I would love to see that. Put them all in jail, because that's what they deserve for what they've done.
He's going to release so many other people that have been imprisoned.
Let out his own criminal friends, yes. Well, he did that the first time. He even pardoned Jared Kushner's crook father, which was a disgrace. But that all said, you know, we live in a land of crooks, petty and small, which then leads to a topic that I think you may want to talk about a little.
Look, I'm just overwhelmed. Living in New York City, you can get overwhelmed a lot. But I'm overwhelmed by the ways in which people are trying to scam transportation. In the first place, there are a number of ways we move around in the city. Certainly there are bridges with tolls, and the people are disguising their license plates with greater frequency, and they go through the toll booths, and they get away with it. And that's happening with increasing frequency. That's one way in which it's happening. Second is they've installed speed cameras in a number of places within the boroughs, and the speed cameras have been shown to be effective in reducing speeding and incidents and accidents and deaths and injuries. On the other hand, the idea of defacing and obscuring license plates has again come to the fore and prevented the monitoring agency, the manufacturer of these speed cameras, from actually issuing tickets for a whole range of instances in which the license plates have been obscured. This happens over half the time now, apparently, in Brooklyn and Queens. And I'm not condemning them alone, it's happening all over. But the idea that disguising license plates or obscuring them in some fashion each of these is amounting to, and when I get to the total of this, it's going to amount to about, my guesstimate is about $1 billion a year. $1 billion. Because you get those two things, and then you get those people. The third is guys who they've come up with a new way of trying to stop people who have parked too long in places and gotten tickets, but stop them from driving away and getting away with it somehow. They've got a thing called the barnacle. The barnacle is a shield that goes up over the windshield and adheres with about 1,000 pounds of force to the windshield. So it doesn't stop you from starting the car, but you can't see. They have some tests on it going on now. Of course, some school guys and college guys in Oklahoma found that by using the defroster and a credit card, you can apparently get the thing off. Otherwise, but when you do try and get it off, it causes a huge scream, and that would be a deterrent as well. Of course, they're testing this thing, but they also say that you've got it, once you get it off, you call someone, you get a number, a code that allows you to defang the thing, and then you take it, it says, to some convenient drop-off point. Well, that one strikes me as funny. The people who get out of this are going to take that goddamn thing. They're going to throw it away or whatever. It isn't going to be well treated. They're not going to be in good mood. But okay, so that's the speed cameras. That's the toll people. And then you get the horrendous hundreds of millions now a year, we're talking, in those getting on buses and not paying. It's over 50% of the people, it seems.
I've heard that. Yeah.
I've seen it in action lots of times. And you can't ask the bus driver to intervene. And not that's wrong. It's absolutely right, because he's putting his life on the damn line. A number of times they've been injured. There was a stabbing last year or so. These guys, you're dealing with scum on the buses who are trying to evade, often, not all. And you can't ask that guy to put his life on the line to get a fare. They've tried to put inspectors somehow on with police backup on the buses. That's going to take as much money as it gains. But it's the fact, this is, again, just part of the bigger picture. I guess I'll just say subways, same stuff, people beating it. A lot of people being installed as security agents. They cost probably as much as the loss of the fares, not quite, but the total of these things from all those sources is, I estimate from the numbers I've seen, but not close, that it's close to $1 billion a year. And that's going to be exacerbated by this pause in the congestion pricing system. So it's going to be absolute chaos with the budgeting process, and it's causing a loss of work efforts and hiring of employees, hiring of specialists, repair of stuff. And it also, in a larger sense, talks to the degradation of our society and civility. That people, if they're allowed to do small things, they'll do bigger ills. That's where I leave it.
Well, Stuart, I think this petty kind of crime stuff that you're discussing is part of the symptoms of a city and a state that has been taken over by radical progressives who don't want to penalize people.
I agree.
For these petty offenses. And you are correct. That was one of the things, like the fare beaters. They went after the fare beaters to prevent, not just the loss to the system, but it was a way to pick up criminals, because someone who's going to beat the fare is going to do other things. But, with Alvin Bragg, Kathy Hochul, and this hapless, incompetent mayor, I don't really know what you should expect. They all, and the state legislature.
And the city council.
Yes, radicals. And, it's kind of a disgrace. And really, truthfully, I think a lot of New Yorkers are disgusted by it, which is the reason why Mayor Adams was elected in the first place.
Yes.
He was the only moderate in the race. And the other two competitors, Maya Wiley, was so far to the left. She was never, she was a scary. And then there was was it Garcia? Yeah, Kath. And I think the problem with her, and the reason why I personally would not have voted for her, she was the sanitation commissioner under de Blasio, and I felt anyone associated with that joke of an administration should not be mayor. And, some people said she was competent, though. I don't know. I can't say. Maybe we would have been better off with her than what we've ended up with, because the promise of Mayor Adams has gone. Let's talk about all the things that have happened in the last year. The city has not gotten better under his watch, in my opinion. Yes, businesses come back, it's crowded, restaurants are open, but the fundamental problems that started with that scum de Blasio, P.S., poop in front of his house in Park Slope. He deserves it. But, he had a police commissioner that, that
the first one was performing well. That lady was performing
right, and she resigned because she was being undermined. Right. He had his police commissioner recently resigned, and is being investigated. The police commissioner's brother was.
He seems like he's got a long record.
Right, and he was threatening some cab driver as well. I think that the school's chancellor is resigning under a cloud. I think there's been 2 fire chiefs who have also resigned. There's been a sexual misconduct allegation against Mayor Adams, our prestigious mayor. And the only reason why people like me have hold my breath about all of this is because the last thing we want is one of these progressives taking over the city, because I can't imagine things could be any worse. And then two...
You know who the great white hope could be in such a situation?
I know. You're going to say it, Andy?
Yes.
I somewhat agree, even though he is a repulsive human being.
He may be. I won't say maybe. He has shown himself to be, and certainly egotistical, but he knows how to rule and get things done.
He really does.
And that business of, he pinched someone, he touched someone, that's small stuff.
I mean, look what the Kennedys did.
And Trump.
And Trump. Clinton. Don't forget the rapist.
But I think he's the kind of guy, just like Anthony Weiner. Weiner was under a cloud and was still the favorite in the polls.
I know.
Until Act 2 of his routine. And then all of a sudden came the picture of de Blasio with his family, with the kid with the big bushy hair. And that he turned from a no one, a bottom of the list person.
I know.
Into the favorite.
Well, you know what? Whoever said New York City attracts the best and the brightest can't be right, because I knew de Blasio was bad news from the beginning and would never have voted for him, but a lot of New Yorkers did, and shame on all of them for
Public advocate position, which was set up sometime years before I was here in some political compromise. That's simply an office of someone who's setting himself up to run for further office,
right,
and has no aim other than to bring to attention faults or issues or discrepancies in the present mayoral election. And that's, I think, the position ought to be abolished.
As well as the person who's currently occupying it, because he may be the acting mayor.
Yeah.
Because now the tip of the iceberg, last week, our mayor was indicted for fraud, bribery, illegal campaign.
Well, the Turkish stuff is part of it.
Right. It's going back from when he was the borough president of Brooklyn.
He was showing this conduct, this activity, this setup activity before he went into office.
Right. I mean, bottom line is, just like those people who are grifting for fare beaters, he's a fare beater on a bigger scale. And what's funny about it is, really, it's not a huge amount of money that he took, but he apparently took like all these travel upgrades, luxury suites, Four Seasons type luxury. We know.
Oh, I know. I no, I don't know. I can't spell it.
I'm sure you can. But it's only like $100,000, right? That he took. Like, he got upgraded on airlines. He got a big presidential suite when he went to Turkey.
Quid pro quo.
Right. And in exchange for this, he apparently allowed the Turkish diplomatic building to be occupied with a certificate of occupancy, even though it wasn't ready and it was unsafe.
And it was a chief of one of the chiefs on 2 occasions said no.
And he squozed them to do it. Also, he could go on some, luxury vacation to Turkey and have his Turkish delight. He also apparently, the fire department, the building department put a stop work order on some real estate developer because the conditions on the site were unsafe. And this was in 2021. And apparently the contributor, it was a contributor of his called Adams. Adams put the squeeze on it, got the work order lifted, allowed work to continue on the dangerous site, endangering us all, in exchange so that he could get some campaign contributions and perks and his nightclubs or whatever the hell he does.
I had really hoped and expected I hoped he would be good and an investment and an effective enforcer of the law, but it's really become a cesspool, it appears, of cronyism and crime. And that I confess that was the one of 2 things that bothered me when he came in and started making appointments. Well, first of all, one was his position on immigration. That was insane. It remains insane. 2, his cronyism, starting with his attempting to put his brother in place in the head of security for the city. The guy had nothing on his resume. And this other series of people that he surrounds himself with, and now it's coming home to roost.
It really is. And what another thing is, from what I heard yesterday, there might be even more charges that are coming his way. And meanwhile, he sits refusing to resign.
Do you think he will?
I don't know, because I think he's got like this whole victimization thing that he's playing up. And because what he's claiming is the feds came after him the minute he criticize the Biden administration's disastrous immigration policies.
Well,
and that's just a bunch of crap because he was doing all the stuff way before that.
Damien, the U.S. attorney, in
Right.
this case, he is no one to fool with. He's proven himself, it seems to me, in the last few years, as opposed to the other guy in the New York.
Right. And we know as a fact,
He's hard.
Joe Biden doesn't use his prosecutors to go after his own. He uses them to go after his enemies. For example, all those ridiculous criminal charges they brought against Donald Trump, most of which are not holding up in court.
I'm not going to agree with you that he had in any way caused this to happen with respect to the Damien, the attorney named Damien.
No, I don't.
West or something.
I don't think Biden had anything to do with it either.
West, did I pronounce the last name?
I don't remember. Yeah, but something.
He's hard. He's hardcore. He's a solid prosecutor.
Right. I don't believe Adams is full of it. He is not being targeted, and this is not like some political prosecution. Yeah. On the other hand, the Trump prosecutions are political. Tish James' ridiculous fraud thing was questioned by the Court of Appeals of New York, and it sounds like they're going to overturn from what the judges were saying at the hearing, although that's a speculation. But it wouldn't surprise me. And, Fat Alvin Bragg's case, he can't even come up with a sentence because of the immunity ruling. And even if he did, I have a funny feeling it's going to be appealing. And the case in Georgia has gone nowhere. But I mean, the prosecutor in that case hired her lover to be part of the team, which was ridiculous. And she compromised the entire case, assuming there is one. It seems that the only person who's suffering for all of Trump's misdeeds is that lunatic, Rudy Giuliani. And a matter of fact, I think Giuliani's daughter came out and said how Trump has destroyed her father. I don't know if I'd go that far.
I don't think she said it quite that way. I think she became disappointed and offended by his positions over time and has said so before, voted for other Democrats.
Right, that's true.
But she came out publicly after great internal debate. And I believe her. But I don't know that it has much consequence.
No, it has none. I mean, the guy's already bankrupt, disbarred, and
he's got some other properties that people are interested in. Because he's refusing to pay the judgment in Georgia to those people he abused. He impugned their integrity and their honesty, the two black ladies in the voting.
He's the last person who should be impugning anyone's honesty. And frankly, he was one of the most overrated mayors out there, but we don't need to go off of him. He's the past, fortunately. The future doesn't look good here in New York. When our only hope is some guy who has nipple piercings, Andy Cuomo, and who has obviously got serious groping issues. I mean, inappropriate. And, he's 63 years old. Give it up, Andy. Stop chasing after women. Without a shot of Viagra, you can't do anything anyway. Why doesn't he just grow up? I mean, I don't understand these politicians, and I guess it makes him feel good.
Too much. He may be the man that's your favorite choice given others.
You know what? I hope Curtis Sliwa runs again. He has 16 cats. That's enough for me. But enough about Mayor Adams. It's a depressing state of affairs. Eventually we might get stuck with Germani as the interim mayor, but there will be a special election, and Germani may not last if New York has any sense, because that guy is a lunatic. But at the end of the day, Stuart, New York is nothing but a big pile of crap. It is a disgrace.
There's hope.
But speaking of hope, I know you give the world hope, Stuart, with all your positive thinking and, gentle way of doing things. It amazes me that you're able to keep this Constitution when we live in such a negative world.
Well, I don't know that I agree with you.
You mean you're hostile too?
No, but I have lots of cynical moments and skeptical moments. But
well, you mask them greatly with your veneer. Maybe it's all your acting skills.
But I don't. I don't do it in that sense. But I'm an actor and a writer and a playwright, and I wanted to just bring the word out about some of it. Two events that are coming up that might be of interest to our listeners. I served in the Army as a journalist and photographer of the 1st Infantry Division in Vietnam in 1969, and over time, years later, that a show evolved, and it's called Vietnam Through My Lens, a one-man solo play prompted by my experiences over there, but no blood and guts, no politics, just stories seen through the prism of people I've met along the way, to, through, and beyond Vietnam. It's gotten very well received. I've been in 9 states in the last 10 years. We premiered it in 2014 in New York City. The next performance is going to be at the Bedford Playhouse in Bedford in Westchester County on November 10, the day before Veterans Day. And you can check out the website if you're interested. It's really a wonderful evening, I'll just tell you. And that's the way both critics and attendees have seen it. It's at 4:30 p.m. on Sunday, the 10th. You can check out the Bedford Playhouse website. Oddly enough, almost serendipitously, on the 11th, there's going to be a film that was taken of my performance in an empty theater in Norwalk, Connecticut in 2020. So it's got a whole different feel, same text, but a whole different feel. And that's going to be playing at 4 p.m. on November 11 in the Picture House. It's called the Picture House in Pelham in Westchester County. So you can check those out if you're interested. And what I wanted to do now is just give you just a quick sample. It'll take just a couple of minutes of doing a scene from the show. You'll see my generally conversational style as I'm speaking with you now. So I'll do one of the scenes, or much of it. And it goes this way. I grew bored in San Jose, California. A good buddy of mine, Paul Power, suggested that I give my acting and writing a shot in New York City. Paulie's a wise fellow, and that was all the investigation and analysis I needed. So in December of 97, I drove my little rental van across what remained of Route 66 and some other blue highways, finally settling in an apartment in Greenwich Village. Just 2,500 miles or so as the crow flies, but a seismic shift in attitude. The Village, home of the Stonewall Gay Riot in 1969, site of the violent Squatters' Riot in Tompkins Square Park in 1988. Definitely not San Jose. When I got to New York City, Memorial Day started to get a hold of me again, and I read in the New York Times an article about Father Kevin Devine and his Church of the Good Shepherd, an article which involved Memorial Day. Father Devine served as an Army chaplain in Vietnam. He was awarded the Silver Star for Valor for ministering to soldiers in the field under fire. The Silver Star, our nation's 3rd highest award for valor. Father Devine believed that Memorial Day Mass should honor both God and soldier. Father Devine, I took a subway uptown, found my way to Father Devine's church. Outside, veterans in uniform. Well, the uniforms looked a bit tight and a bit worn, but who cared? Inside, members of American Legion Post 581 marched down the aisles carrying the American flag, the black POW MIA flag, and a host of others. Tom Hoare, their commander, led the way. Father Devine said, he said that we praise those who had been lost, and he prayed for those who were yet unfound. He walked such a delicate line, so gracefully. We sang the Battle Hymn of the Republic in church and concluded with America the Beautiful. I left the church wiping my eyes. A Jew who hadn't seen the inside of a synagogue in quite a while, holding back tears in a Catholic church. The Catholic Church finding a place for the soldier that I had never seen before.
Well, thank you, Stuart. That was really, it was very emotional. I appreciate it. And I hope everyone goes to see what you done. It's, I watched this I think I watched the show once and I really enjoyed it. You have a good storytelling ability.
Thanks.
Unlike me, who just screams and yells and shouts and says horrible things about everyone, including fat people. Not to end on a humorous note after your very serious, thing. But, as I guess this will be the end of our 14th episode, Stu.
Yep.
And we'll be back with more venom, vitriol, and some balance. Balance. Yes. All right. So signing off now.
Bye now.